Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Spectre Calum. I am so glad you've joined me today for a special dive into the life of one of the most inspiring women in the early church, Saint Perpetua. As we explore her life, her martyrdom, and her continued legacy, we will not only uncover the historical details of her journey, but also reflect on the significance of her story in our Christian life today. Saint Perpetua's story is truly remarkable, not only for the courage and faith she demonstrated in the face of extreme persecution, but also for the fact that she was one of the few early martyrs whose own personal writings have survived the ages. Through her own words, we gain unique insight into her thoughts, struggles, and faith. This video will delve deeply into her life, her miracles, her canonization process, and her feast day, as well as how we, as modern Christians, can find meaning in her example today. Saint Perpetua was born around the year 181 AD in Carthage, a bustling Roman city in North Africa. She came from a noble and wealthy family, with a father who was a respected pagan and a mother who might have had more Christian leanings. Perpetua herself was a young woman, likely in her early 20s, when she embraced Christianity. At the time, the church was still in its early stages, and Christians were often forced to practice their faith in secret due to intense Roman persecution. It is important to note that Perpetua's conversion was not impulsive. She was well educated, and her family's social status placed her among the elite of Carthage. Yet despite the privilege of her position, she felt a deep, irresistible calling to Christianity. Perpetua's decision to be baptized in a time of intense persecution was not taken lightly. She was not born into a Christian family and had to make a conscious, personal choice to accept Christ, which would soon lead her down a path of great trial. At the time of her conversion, Perpetua was married and had an infant son whom she was still nursing. This makes her story all the more poignant. She was not some distant figure who could afford to live an ascetic or detached life from the world. She was a mother, a wife, and a daughter, balancing these roles with the deep conviction of her newfound Christian faith. Her conversion, however, did not go unnoticed by the authorities. Christianity was considered illegal in the Roman Empire, especially during the reign of Emperor Septimius Severus. The church was seen as a subversive threat to the Roman order, and Christians were regularly arrested, tortured, and executed. Perpetua's faith would soon put her directly in the path of persecution. The account of Perpetua's trial and imprisonment comes down to us through the Passion of Saint Perpetua and Saint Felicity, a historical text that has been preserved for centuries. Perpetua was arrested as part of a group of Christians. Among them were her servant Felicity, who was also pregnant and would later suffer martyrdom with Perpetua. The arrest was a terrifying and life-changing moment for Perpetua, as it meant the potential for torture, imprisonment, and ultimately death for her beliefs. While in prison, Perpetua's faith remained unshaken. She was forced to leave behind her infant son, something that deeply grieved her, but she entrusted her child to the care of family members, believing that her faith was a higher calling. During her imprisonment, Perpetua wrote in great detail about her experiences, and it is through her own words that we can understand the inner strength she drew from her faith. Her father came to visit her in prison, urging her to recant her Christianity. He offered her freedom in exchange for sacrificing to the Roman gods, but Perpetua refused. She wrote that she could not call herself anything but a Christian. Her resolute faith in Christ remained unwavering despite the familial pressure, the potential for public disgrace, and the threat of torture and death. In one particularly powerful scene, Perpetua's father begged her, "Have pity on your baby. If you will not be concerned for your own self, at least think of your child." Perpetua's response shows her resolve. "I can't call myself anything other than a Christian." This defiance in the face of her father's pleas exemplified the courage that would define her life. After enduring imprisonment and the pressure to renounce her faith, Perpetua and her companions were sentenced to the arena where they would face execution. The account tells us that the day of her martyrdom came when she was led, along with Felicity and others, into the Colosseum. They were to be executed in front of a roaring crowd, an event designed to break their spirit. In the arena, the Christians were subjected to various brutal forms of execution. Perpetua and Felicity were forced to face wild beasts, and later Perpetua was struck by a sword. Her death was not in vain. It became a symbol of unwavering faith and courage in the face of persecution. The early church saw her not just as a martyr, but as a living testimony to the power of Christ, even in death. The courage and faith of Perpetua have resonated with generations of Christians. In fact, the very fact that her story was recorded and preserved in such detail is a testament to the impact of her martyrdom. She was not only a figure who inspired those who knew her, her story spread far and wide, serving as a beacon of hope to Christians in a time of trial. The miracles attributed to Saint Perpetua primarily emerged in the years following her martyrdom, and these stories were crucial to her widespread veneration. The first of these miracles, an event tied directly to her tomb, occurred within the early years of Christian pilgrimage to her resting place in Carthage. It is believed that early Christian communities flocked to her tomb to honor her memory and to seek her intercession, and in these visits, miracles began to be reported. One of the most significant and widely attested miracles associated with Saint Perpetua involved the healing of a blind man. According to accounts from the time, a man who had been blind for many years came to her tomb in Carthage, seeking her intercession. The man prayed fervently, asking for healing through the saint's intercession. After praying at the tomb, he reported that his sight was miraculously restored. This miracle strengthened the faith of early Christians and solidified Perpetua's reputation as a powerful intercessor. The healing of a blind man is particularly meaningful, as it is symbolic not only of physical restoration, but also of spiritual enlightenment. In the early church, blindness was often used as a metaphor for spiritual darkness, and the healing of the blind could be interpreted as a sign of divine grace, opening the eyes of those who seek truth and salvation. This miracle, therefore, held deep theological significance for Christians in the centuries following Perpetua's death. Over time, additional reports of miraculous healings occurred at the tomb of Saint Perpetua. People who suffered from various ailments, whether they were sick, paralyzed, or infirm, visited her tomb seeking intercession. Many of these individuals experienced healings that were described as instantaneous or remarkable in their completeness. The tomb became a focal point for Christian devotion, not just because of its proximity to a martyr, but because it was considered a place of divine power. Saint Perpetua's tomb also became known as a site where spiritual healing occurred. It was believed that the saint's intercession could lead to the healing of emotional, spiritual, and even relational wounds. This contributed to the early Christian tradition of pilgrimage, where the faithful traveled great distances to be near the relics of saints, believing that proximity to the saints' remains could lead to miraculous blessings. In the centuries following her death, other Christians who were facing persecution would seek Perpetua's intercession in the lead-up to their own martyrdoms. There are reports of individuals who claim to have been inspired by her courage and found strength in her example as they faced trials of their own. One notable account is from the time of the Vandal invasion in North Africa, when Christians in Carthage and the surrounding areas were once again being persecuted. Several accounts mention that martyrs who were imprisoned or about to be executed felt a renewed sense of courage and determination when they called upon Saint Perpetua for assistance. These individuals believed that Saint Perpetua appeared to them in dreams or visions, offering encouragement and reinforcing their resolve to stay faithful even in the face of death. Saint Perpetua's feast day is celebrated on March 7th, the anniversary of her death. This day serves as a moment for all Christians to reflect on the courage of early martyrs and to remember the sacrifices made for the faith. The Church's recognition of her martyrdom offers an opportunity to not only honor her, but also to examine our own commitment to Christ. Perpetua's feast day, in particular, invites us to consider the way we live our faith today. In a world that may not require us to face physical martyrdom, we are still challenged by the question of how much we are willing to sacrifice for our beliefs. Her example is a reminder that our daily lives should reflect our Christian values, no matter the consequences. Saint Perpetua's story speaks directly to us, even in the 21st century. We may not face the threat of physical martyrdom, but we do face challenges to our faith. Whether in the workplace, our families, or society at large, we are often called to stand firm in our beliefs, even when it's difficult. Perpetua's example encourages us to look beyond our immediate comforts and to consider what we are willing to stand for. Her courage and perseverance remind us that our faith should be visible to the world. It should not be something we merely practice privately, but something that shapes every aspect of our lives. Perpetua's witness challenges us to consider how we respond to trials in our own lives. Are we willing to stand up for what is right, even when it is unpopular? Are we committed to living out our Christian values with the same strength and resolve that Perpetua showed in the arena? Saint Perpetua's life was one of profound faith, courage, and sacrifice. Her legacy is a powerful reminder of what it means to live as a Christian in a hostile world. As we reflect on her story, let us ask ourselves, how can we be more like Saint Perpetua in our own lives? How can we draw strength from her example to live boldly and faithfully in our daily walk with Christ? Thank you for joining me today. I hope this reflection on the life of Saint Perpetua has inspired you to live more fully for Christ. May her example lead us all to greater faith, greater courage, and greater love. If you enjoyed this video and would like to learn more about Christian life, please like, subscribe and share with others. Thank you again for watching Spectare Caelum. Until next time, God bless.